Hey, my fellow bankers, this is Nafi Sparrow, the representative of Benny Banks, and I'm back with another deposit. Um, what is money? Benny Banks discovered the 10 stack commandment. So, in this particular deposit, I want to highlight a passage from the 10 stack commandments taken from the blueprint of Benjamin Banks, where Benny explains to us how he has discovered the 10 stack commandment that he had composed. And I wanted to elaborate on what is actually money. Okay, so many people define money to be many things, whether it's a monetary um, paper, whether it's something of value, whether it's something you can trade or barter with, um, whether it is considered to be something that can be spent. However, what does Benny Banks, um, what is his message really telling us in terms of what is actually money and what is being fed to us? So, in this particular passage that we're going to read, dealing with the Benny Banks and how he discovered the 10 Stack Commandment, especially for those who want to know a little bit more about Benny, I would advise you guys to go ahead and go to bankwithbenny.com and you'll be able to purchase the actual book, a physical copy of the actual book, where you can get a little bit more background as to actually who Benny Banks is. Benny Banks discovered the 10 Stack Commandments. I want to just read this passage here. It explains that Benny Banks knew his mother would not approve of him going around collecting pennies from off the ground. She was a proud woman, his mother, who believed that it is hard work that pays bills and not dreams and fanciful ideas, and especially not going around collecting pennies either, right? She would always say to Benny, "What do you expect to get with all those doggone pennies anyway?" He would reply, "Nothing, mother." He wondered why she could not understand that pennies had value. Although everyone seems to forget that they do. So whenever his mother would send him off on an errand or outside to play, he would go and collect pennies. So far you can see that Benny has given us this idea that something that is looked at as, or something that is being overlooked, has value in and of itself, and something as inexpensive or even as intrinsic as, or as the penny, to say, right? Benny understood that the penny itself, even though it didn't have a huge amount of value, it still had value. And this points to the mindset that Benny had to see the value in that thing versus overlooking it. And that's important, especially when we're talking about money. When we're talking about money, because money is not equated to materialistic gains or materialistic possessions. Materialism, that doesn't equate to money. A person can have a mansion, a person can have all of these beautiful things, but at the same time, if the person's health is not good, then in this case, what would be the most thing of value? It would be the person's health. It wouldn't be the materialistic things that the person have, because if the health is decaying or deteriorating, then the person will not be around to enjoy the actual materialistic things that the person have amassed. So this is something that you want to actually definitely look into. Continuing, Benny says his father worked inside of a mint factory where they made the coins, that you mentioned here that his mother so despised. So, is that why she hated them so much? Because of my father? Benny would ask himself. He would always hear his mother say about his father when she was upset, "Your father, boy, is a hard worker. However, he always a day late and a dollar short." So in other words, he definitely she's crediting him. At one point she's saying that the father is definitely a hard worker, you can't take that away from him, but she's still discrediting him because all of the work that he puts in doesn't amount up to anything, because he's still he's still a day late, dollar short. I mean, he still doesn't actually get that what he sets out. He still falls short, even with all of the labor that he's putting in. He's still falling short. He's still not coming ahead, right? So in her understanding, she discredit the father for the hard work, praise him at one time and discredit him at another. And no doubt that working hard or having a working ability plays a direct role in how successful you will be in any endeavor that you embark upon. But still, is hard work better than working smart? No doubt the latter is better, working smart. So as they say, not work harder, but work smarter, okay? But just because you work smart does not negate that you don't have to put in hard work or you don't have to put in labor. That doesn't mean that, all right? It is just that you utilizing and maximizing the best benefit, whereas though you're not putting too much labor in something that doesn't require that, and you're putting the right amount of labor in something that does, all right, to get you to the point where you want to be at. It continues here. It says, Benny Banks figured just like pennies are overlooked, so are ideas, and the fact that if Mama could earn a penny for each idea she had, she wouldn't have to work so hard. Benny Banks was only 10 then when he discovered the 10 stack commandments. Richness is a state of mind. So if you can see here, it wasn't so much just the penny, all right? Pennies are overlooked, okay? And it wasn't the fact that Benny was collecting pennies, but he knew that they had value. And what allowed him to actualize they had value was the way that he was thinking. So he saw the value in them. And it's the mindset. So that's why it says Benny discovered at the age of 10 the 10 stack commandment, which that is richness is a state of mind. How I think, what's my perspective, how I look, that will equate to how successful I will be. That in and of itself tells me where my money is at. My money is not in the monetary paper or in the coin per se. My money really is in my ideas. You understand? That's where my money is at. So yeah, I don't have all of these different things. So that doesn't mean that I can't get those things or I cannot possess those things. So a person might come along and say, okay, no, if you rich and you're saying that you're rich, you should be able to go out and purchase whatever item you want to buy. That's not necessarily true, because richness, as we see, is of different forms, different types, just like poor and poverty is of different forms and different types. And even though that when we look on TV and we look in the media and we look at all that stuff, they are portraying to us smoke and mirrors. They're trying to get us to see, the bells and whistles, so to speak, and forget about the real thing. As if we're not to mention that America, 70%, almost 87%, if not 90% of America is impoverished. But if you look from the TV and entertainers and the celebrities and et cetera, you'll think that they could smoke and mirrors. You'll think that, no, this is what wealth is about. No. You see, there are things that money cannot buy. And there are things that produce money. And no doubt there are your ideas. So that's what Benny is harping on. His 10 stack commandments, the richness and state of mind. I think, therefore I am. No, that's pretty much what it is. So, my son, 13 years old, so he comes out and say to me, and it's interesting enough because both of my sons pretty much say the same thing, and that's what they pretty much taught. So my 13-year-old son said, okay, I hear you about spreading the message of Benny Banks, but did Benny Banks have money? Was this guy even rich? You mentioned to me about him, but was he rich? I said, yes, he is rich. And he was rich. So automatically, my son equates richness to materialism. He says, well, can he buy a whole lot of cars? And I told him, why would he purchase a whole lot of cars? In his time period, okay, why would he purchase a whole lot of cars? What would be the benefit of having those whole lot of cars? Are they an asset to him? or would there be a liability? What would be the point? But see, my son, he couldn't register. He's 13 years old. He thinks, because what he sees is that rich equates to materialism. How much materialism, what I possess, which shows is what, that I'm rich. And so I move now to my 6-year-old son, who has a conversation with me, and he always say that, Dad, I want to be rich. I wish we were rich so that I can buy a Tesla, or I can buy, a Lamborghini. This is what he see on TV and so forth. And again, he has the same similar mindset of my 13-year-old son, that richness is all surrounded around materialism, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. Do you understand? The fact that you are healthy, money can't buy that. That's a form of richness. The fact that you are loved, money can't buy that. That's a form of richness. The fact that you possess intelligence, money can't buy that. That's a form of richness. The fact that you have your limbs and your faculties, money can't buy that. That's a form of richness. Do you understand? And if you can appreciate those things and understand the value of those things, and that's where the true economy lies, and that you can understand that, then you have tapped into your richness. And that's pretty much what Benny Banks is actually pouring out in his message. And it's standing out there that this is what he's actually saying. Like it says on the back, until you begin to see your ideas as currency, you will always be poor. Until you start to view that your ideas have value. You understand? So it's best we don't get caught up on materialistic things. Like I said, materialistic things depreciate. They also have an expiration date. They don't remain, nor do they bring with them, in and of themselves, everlasting happiness. The moment you might be pleased that you got the new car, next week, next week or the week after, or even 3 months later, you want the newest and latest model that comes out. So you might no longer be pleased or desired with the car that you actually have. It depreciated from its value. It depreciates. Certain things happen. You ride and you put miles on it. You wear and tear, etc., etc., etc. So it doesn't bring that everlasting happiness that you want, right? But still, did you take away, or did you deplete your richness? Did you take anything from your riches? No. So this is why I tell my sons, me, Nafi Sparrow, the representative of Benny Banks, from the message of Benny Banks, I tell my sons, no, you're rich. You only can take away from your richness if you do not recognize the richness that you have within you. But you're rich already. The money doesn't make you rich. It's a tool. You understand? So, like I said, in this deposit, I just wanted to share that with you guys, that we have to, understand that the way we see things and the way that we perceive things is really important, because we don't want to get caught up in smoke and mirrors. We don't want to get caught up in chasing the next gadget, the next device, the next phase, the next trend, the next etc., and then putting all of our happiness into those things which are never was built to last, instead of looking at those things which we have already and that we possess, and build with those things. And that's where you will see the true wealth at. So again, what is money? All right, to the person, money might be monetary gain. All right, money might be digital currency. All right, money might be etc., etc. But for the individual who understand the value, that money doesn't come from without, it comes from within. That's where the true money is at. It's in the perspective, in the mind state. All right, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I thank you for banking with Benny and tuning in for this brief deposit and reminder. See you guys until the next deposit.